Please note, is this plastic? Yeah, of course it is. Why I gave up, but why it's even more than ever before horrible to think about any kind of cause. So I'm walking down the path there. There's a woman parked at the top, well into her 70s, no, about 70, with a quite expensive, quite special van. Anyway, I just passed the time of the day, went for a chat with her, and we're sort of walking down. And this woman could basically be working at a jewellery store in South Molton Street. But she lives here. Oh, and society is totally and utterly, yes, we all know, completely and utterly right on the cliff edge and all going completely and utterly. Well, they don't use the word toxic. The word toxic is for the underclass. But it's like, oh yeah, we know this, that the great rent is here. But I can feel the change is coming through. The change, it is turning round now, and because I throw in knowledge of the environment. I mean, to say one is an environmentalist is actually the correct phrase, because if you try and bolster, support anyone who's the rare person who's got solutions, who's doing, and here's the key word, the work on how we may realistically improve the environment. Realistic, not Space Cadet for Radio 4. Oh, I've got a new gizmo that's going to save the planet. No. So you add in, as I did, it's like, yeah, but you sound like a person I can have a sensible, real conversation with. The fact of the matter is most of the watercourses are destroyed. The air, the sea is full of microplastics. I happen to have experienced over 20 years. I kind of don't talk about the people in power, the Welsh who are just doing the biggest con artist job in the whole world ever with their supposed environmental bill that got cancelled 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? No, it was a year ago. It was due to come into force January before last, spent millions of pounds, cancelled. And then you have the people, the farmers, protesting because of the next, the many year heralded need for the farm payments to be for environmental good rather than just per acre. Anyway, but then you sort of introduce the words, yeah, but the environment needs people doing work. I've been around a lot of environmentalists, well, they call themselves environmentalists, who have gradually hijacked what used to be quite a good kind of green or ecology party 40 years ago. And the whole thing in the provinces has been hijacked by ex-city people who still are city neurotics, which they're entitled to be. I accept that 100%. Except they've hijacked the environmental, the few organisations, and they don't do the work. If you've got a polluting somewhere like this, for example, or farms, or new building sites, you've got to find a way of getting in there, doing the work, bridging with the people in charge who are causing pollution, I have an absolutely magnificent example of my past friend. Their farm was known, I was told by a scientific expert, their farm was causing the browning to the River Arrow, just below, downstream of Titley. And there's no if or but, and the browning to the water is very serious because it destroys the life cycles of the small fish and large fish too. Because if you've got mud is not really a natural thing. I was going to do something on this a week ago. A non-country person will say, what on earth is this person talking about? The history, evolution, the history of the planet, the biosphere, basically changed about 10,000 years ago. And arguably, 10,000 years ago. But really only 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years ago, in fact it was only about 400 years ago, the Enclosure Act came in. In nature, you have very little mud. That sounds stupid. Take the River Halford, for example. Anyone would say, well, that's an absurdly muddy river. I arrived there on the 6th of June and went for a walk in it, seeing if I could find a way round. And it's quicksand. But it's not mud, it's silt. And it stays settled. Even a very, very tidal river like that. No, mud is almost entirely as a result of stock, animals, and some human use. Okay, if you're in Africa, you have certain watercourses which once a year or twice a year, the wildebeest, 10,000 wildebeest will cross the river at a particular place and it will become muddy. Yes, you have certain places that animals gather. Your iconic place in the river, bend in the river, where the hippos gather to have mud baths. But particularly in Northern Europe, that really is not, you really don't get it in nature. The mud, the silt in a river, it lays there, and the point being is that the water above remains relatively clear. All of the life of that river has evolved over all of the history of the biosphere until 300 or 400 years ago, such that it just expected the water to be clear. Humans come along, we enclose animals which around a feeding or water area or an access egress area. Dairy farms create a tremendous amount of mud, not from having the cows in cow sheds, because that will generally be contained. No, because the dairy cows will often, 500 of them, as per that farm, will be going along the same track twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day, for all winter, and it creates mud. And the rain comes and washes that mud into the rivers. It's astonishing. You didn't have mud. Plenty of small farms in the Welsh Hills, for example, there is basically no mud, except in the winter you put a feeding block out for the animals, or you may put hay in a certain area, and if you have 100 sheep that gather for an hour around a feeding area, yes, the ground there turns to mud. But that is not a natural thing. Anyway, back to woman up there. So it's like, I was saying, just conversing. Yeah, but especially over the last 20 years, since little green movements have these kinds of people come and take over, I don't see any of them do any work. They are actually terrified of farmers. They are actually terrified of landowners. You have to come and work with And it's really hard because it's an ego battle. It's a battle of lonely people who are already resentful because they can't afford the 50,000 status vehicle that many townie incomers bring with them. And as soon as I started to say this to this woman, gradually it's like, right, she doesn't, but she keeps a smile going, oh well, bye-bye then, you know? In other words, so many, and I actually was surprised at this one. It's like, not a hippie van, it's like quite a really bourgeois van, and like, normally when you meet 70-year-olds, they're sort of prepared to speak things as they are. Oh, it's warming up. I'm going to take my coat off. Get a bit of sun. But yeah, it's like they really have bought into this whole fucking thing that came only with Facebook as of about 12 or 13 years ago. These women who were started as supplement saleswomen, health salespeople, then it's life coaching, and then it's the whole, it's totally, the worst thing about it is it is actually totally Californian, of course, but they're intelligent enough not to sell themselves, not to present themselves as too Californian. But no, this whole kind of empowerment of and positive thinking, and did it. But they really do believe, and this is where I studied it happening. Not because I wanted to, because like I spent time, oh, I know there's that woman there, or that couple there, they're a bit environmental. I wonder if they're worth talking about for this. No, they've all, it's like, if we be the change, but no, we've moved on way beyond that. It's like, no, it's this Russell Brand kind of revolting, the energy, the connections between us are going to naturally, because there is a natural mystical system, except they don't use the word mystical. No, they use cleverer words. There is some kind of force in the universe which is bringing consciousness. Now, they started to use that word about 7 or 8 years ago. The consciousness is kind of turning a corner now. And we all, now that all has to include the people that just don't give a shit about leaving. This will probably be left here for several years. And it deteriorates, it degrades. And the plastic, these are plastic bags. For fuck's sake. It takes work, a lot of work, to do the bridging, to do the people, to do of course none of them want to use it. This thing I went to last night, it was just hilarious. As soon as anything, people, politics, no, politics. In fact, we shouldn't use the word politics, it's just sociology. People, sociology. You've got to do the work connected to the sociology of it all. And there are a great majority still don't even understand that the environment is full of microplastics, so much chemical, blah, blah, blah. And it's just, but the problem is that this is yet another woman that I've met, and very, very kind of reasonably well off, well, one assumes, she exudes well-offness. She's going for a long trip into Europe. I won't say where, she told me, otherwise that might identify her. And she lives here. But as soon as you say, actually, no, your Russell Brand version, you can't say it like this, otherwise they'll definitely run away. But your Russell Brand version, and there are others, but then there's a load, just every woman who started as a cheapskate supplement seller. Of course, they sell herbs and homeopathy and herbal cures and natural remedies, and then it all got much more complicated, like ionizing fucking whatevers. They have the power. They have got so much of everybody's attention, and they actually, I think it reached a point about 5 years ago where they actually believe. There's 2,000 people on my Facebook, and that means that I do have this power, And if we all gradually sort of, not even buy in, but if we all fall into this new way of, we know that the humanity, they never use the correct terms, like the military-industrial complex, industrial blah blah blah, that it's turned a corner. It really is. There is newness coming, and it's going to be good. But I should point out to them that, excuse me, nobody's doing any of the work at all whatsoever. And in fact, the only people that are doing work are a few thousand protesters around the Welsh bloody shed that is their so-called parliament, who are actually protesting because they want things to stay exactly as it is: subsidies for nitrates and subsidies for fuel. They're doing the work. They're there on a proper big motherfucker protest. And of course, it's not really a protest. What I mean by that is because essentially the town-based administration, council, politicians, they're all of them are industrially focused, so they're on their side. They're not going to tell the coppers, fucking arrest them just for having a pea behind their tractor. But forget that. It's like, you talk to somebody and it's so... The funny thing is, the ones that are down here, it's not that unpleasant because they're so good at hiding their opinions. They're so good. They are literally never off duty selling a piece of overpriced bling to you. I'm speaking allegorically now. From South Molton Street, as they obviously may have used to. I'm just using that allegorically, but exactly that kind of person. But they're so good. They're not. They have no real... And of course they have emotions deep down, which is, I don't want to fucking do anything. But you got it. But I'm powerful. I'm spreading this message. We, the chosen clique, are spreading this message that we copied off Roberta Hyacinth's new life coaching site about 10 years ago. And Roberta Hyacinth, or Adrienne Hyacinth, will be, by now she's got 5,000 Facebooks if they allow that. And it's just so fucking cult narcissistic. But the problem is, they are the majority in Britain. You're not going to get anything like as much of this in Europe. They are the majority. And they actually really, really, unfortunately, you have all of your Russell Brand type of stuff. It's like they actually do believe that they... I mean, okay, if they, this type of person, I'd say it's about 10 to 15% in this region, but they're all incomers. If they were to succeed, and everybody, or nearly everybody, signs up to their not actually clearly stated manifesto, I suppose that chief goddess, or they'll think they're goddesses, Adrienne Alethea Hyacinth, if she one day makes a diktat on her Facebook, you will no longer ever any of you use any chemicals, they believe that will happen. That's the way to do it. We're going to reach this point where we literally have such undying, unwavering loyalty to these the higher level, those who've reached the higher level of this great new awakening, that those at that higher level are going, I mean, never quite say this, but I can't think of any other way it's going to happen. Or maybe they're going to put AI in charge and AI will dictate this. And of course, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it's just, but it's so... The good thing about these ones here is that they are so without... They're so sharp-elbowed, lethal. They've spent their lives just being complete and utter, totally amoral creatures in London. And again, that's not a judgment, that's just who they are. But the problem is they own the environment. Or if they don't actually own a parcel of it, they are the ones who own the space up at the community centres, the con artist community spaces, which aren't really community, as the wonderful local couple up there were just fucking slagging them off. But they own those spaces, and they own the floor, and they cannot be. I mean, this is, if you actually analysed all the actual real behaviours, these are the people. If local government says, okay, in this region here, we're going to have to find some people. Government have given us a quota. We've got to clean the place up. We've got to find people to put in processes. They're the people. They are the people. Not me, maybe in the last areas, but I wouldn't want to. But I'd be along absolutely as equal supporter of anybody in that role in last area. But there were none. They were all so pathetic. They were fake. And every single one of them fell to pieces in March 2020. It was just laughable. Being in tune with the environment is meant to mean you're above such kind of hysteria, and just get on with it and carry on doing useful work, healthily outdoors. Anyway, there we go. It's just laughable. It's just so, it truly is. I jot, it's a theme park, but it is so much more of a really, it's a Alice through the Looking Glass theme park, and the mirrors are two-way, and there's really big wonky monsters the other side of the mirrors, and it's all weird, all of it.